right next to me here is a Ford 9N. This tractor has been sitting for quite a long time, as you've probably seen in the little clip I just had posted here. This was my mom's uncle's, so I guess I'd make it my great uncle's. Well, it's probably been about 10 years or so since he passed away, and Dad and I used to work on this tractor back when he was alive, and that was probably 20 years ago, so I don't really remember how long it's been since the run. But anyway, it's here. Let's get it going. All right. Just kidding. We're not going to do that. So, apparent reasons here. We got, well, fuel filter. Seen some better days. I know the motor's free because when I was unloading off the trailer, I used the clutch as a brake and it spun the fan over. Let's check our oil out. Before we get there, well, we have to evict a critter infestation out of the radiator cap. And let's also hope that water didn't get in there and freeze the radiator. I know water got in there, but did it freeze things? I don't know. As far as oil goes, it's been a while since this has been out. It's pretty crusty around there. Okay. We got nice black oil. It's a little low. A little low is better than high. So I think the seat is seeing some better days too. So this tractor used to have a loader on it, and it was one of them annoying tube frame loaders that have the big arms that come up over here. So that's why the fenders are loose, because the last thing that Dad and I did is we took the loader off of it, and we never did anything with it after we took the loader off, but the loader sucked, so we took that off. I did put air in the tires this morning when I unloaded off the trailer, and they're still holding air, so that's a good sign. Drives me nuts that somebody mounted this tire backwards, but I'm not going to mount it correctly. It does have a 3-point. These Ford 9Ns, 2Ns, 8Ns were some of the first tractors besides, I'm pretty sure Ferguson designed the 3-point hitch system. But all those tractors, the companies were kind of overlapping back then, but I do know the 3-point works. However, the seals are bad in it because, so with these tractors, you have to be running the PTO for the hydraulics to work for the 3-point hitch. And when you push clutch in, it disengages the PTO and the 3-point hitch will drop. So I do remember that from the last time we ran it. I also distinctly remember putting the muffler on this with my dad too. So at least it should be quiet. So before we get too wild here, I want to pull these plugs out. I just pulled this wire off. I want to shoot some oil down the cylinders and crank her over, because I'm sure there's probably some surface rust in there. I'm not really sure. They didn't take pipes off the carburetor, but this is an updraft system, so don't have to worry about water getting in the motor, but there's still going to be, it's open to the atmosphere, so you can still have moisture in there. I'm going to have to do this from the other side. You guys stay here, I'll go get this. Alright, I'm going to hook the battery jumper up now. This is a 6-volt system, but you can run a 12-volt jumper on it, you just don't run it super long. Okay, that's good. Got her cranking over. Alright, got all the plugs back in. Let's give it a crank, see how it sounds with all plugs in. See what kind of compression we're building. That sounds pretty good. Now mind you, I mean it's a 6-volt starter, so it's spinning like none other, but that should work. Alright, this might be a little difficult for me to film, but basically we got the cap here. So you pop that off. So the 9 ends, I think the 2 ends maybe, the distributors are in the front of the motor. Makes it a little bit difficult to work on them. All right, excuse the mess. I'm currently reorganizing the shop. But we took the distributor off the machine because I found out that the mud daubers had gotten here and I want to clean this out properly. Plus, I couldn't get the cap off. For some reason, I don't know if it's just stuck on there or what, but it just seems a little too tight. So, like I said, the 9 ends, the distributor's in the front of the motor, so it's kind of difficult to get into. Plus this little bail thing here, this was kind of tight, so I marked our position where this needs to go, and now we've got it on video as well, so shouldn't be any problems putting this back together. But let's get this torn down and clean everything up and put it back together. Gotta clean our points up in here, our points gap, because it's hard to tell, but they're corroded right up, so we'll get them cleaned up. Other than that, there shouldn't be much to do in here. Get rid of this mud dauber nest. We'll give it a good blowout and we should be good to go. Alright, got the distributor back in, all the wires hooked back up. Let's give it a shot. I don't want to get zapped today. I switched over to my other battery pack because this one gives constant power. We got our power probe, so we can supply power and ground. Now, we should be able to check this. Okay, okay, there's power. We got power going in. Okay, so tell us we got ground there. Let's try that again. Okay, no, we got no spark. So I made an adjustment. I'm not sure if it's going to work or not, but on the bottom of the coil, there's a spring that's supposed to feed into the condenser. The spring looked like it had been broken or melted at some point. Probably doesn't have anything to do with the fact we're feeding 12 volt into this. If this doesn't work, I'm going to buy a 12 volt coil for it, and then problem is here that distributor is just cooked. I think we're gonna have to just get a new distributor and coil and do it right, put 12 volt to it. So I think that's it for now. I'll get back with you when I have more time to work on this project. All right, well, we got the old 9N here in the shop, and by the way, it's much more clean and organized. I actually have quite a bit of space. Still got to work on this section here because the generator shouldn't be in here and the power washer needs to find a new home, but we're getting there. Anyway, we got this old thing in the shop and the new parts come in. So let me show you something here quick. So this is a 12 volt coil, and this is what contacts and powers the coil. This is the spring I was kind of adjusting, but it's like, this one's like twice or 3 times the length of the one that was in there. So this is a 12 volt coil too, so that should be good. I mean, it's from Amazon, so it's China, but you know, let's hope it at least works a little bit. And the other thing I was thinking about is there's a resistor on the dash. It's not hooked up. So we got a resistor here. We're gonna hook this up too. And I just got a whole new distributor too. So I'm gonna get these parts changed out real quick and I'll be back with you in a bit. All right, so I got the new distributor in and I got the new coil in, but I was unsure about the resistor because I know that sometimes there's 6-volt and 12-volt coils. And while I bought a 12-volt coil, I just wanted to double check my ohms rating to make sure it was actually a 12-volt coil. So if you're working on one of these tractors and you don't buy a new coil and you're not sure what you have, this is how you test it. So you take your multimeter and you put it on the 200 settings for the ohms resistance side. And what you do is you put your negative, I mean, I guess it doesn't matter, but your negative on this spring on the bottom, and your positive goes on this top terminal here. So I'm going to flip this back this way so you guys can see what's going on here. Now when you put this hang on a second. Now when you put this together, it gives you like 2.8 ohms. So if it reads around 2.5 or so, that means it's a 12-volt coil. If it reads around 1 ohm, somewhere in there, I mean, it's supposed to be like a third of that, that's a 6-volt coil. So that'll tell you which one you have. So, because with the 6-volt coil, you have to run 2 resistors, whereas this one, you only need to run 1. Well, that's if you're running 12-volt. If you're still running 6-volt, you only need 1 resistor. But if you're trying to convert it to 12-volt and keep your 6-volt coil, you'll need to run the 2 resistors to get that, get those numbers down. So, all right, so we got a resistor in there, got some new wiring put in. So now we just got to put a battery in it, and that should give us the proper voltage at the proper resistance to the new distributor and cap. So fingers crossed, we'll have spark. All right, here we go. Let's hope for spark. Look at that. Okay. Let's get this spark plug reinstalled and let's work on getting some fuel to it. All right, so I don't know how well you can see the side of this tank, but it's pretty clean in there. So I think I'm just gonna dump some fresh fuel in this. We'll remedy the fuel filter issue on the other side and see what happens. The fuel was shut off on this machine, so there's a good chance that carburetor might not be gunked up. It's hard to say though, but I'm going to take my chances on it. Go. Yeah. I'm just giving the carburetor a couple taps here, make sure it floats free. So the carburetor is in pretty poor shape. The float was stuck. We got a little wild with the heat and actually unsoldered the float from the float bracket. The throttle butterfly was stuck, but it actually broke. So thankfully, we've got this site called Amazon, and you get all these cheap Chinese aftermarket things. So $30 later, we have a brand new carburetor, and I ain't popped the bowl apart or anything, but looking at the overall quality of it, I mean, it seems to be pretty decent shape. I mean, just a rebuild kit alone from Tractor Supply was $39. $30 for a whole carburetor? I know Henry Ford would be pretty disappointed with these Chinese parts on a all-American tractor, but it's just kind of hard to beat it. So let's get that put on and go from there. So here's our bag of goodies. Came with a couple gaskets. Actually came with 3 gaskets and studs and a inlet filter and inlet pipe. All right, we got our studs installed. Got a gasket. Put the inlet on. This inlet's actually got, I don't know if you can really see in there, but it's got a little pre-screen. I think that's all we need to install this. So let's get this put on here. All these throttle and choke linkages have like a, let me get you in here, show you. They all have this mechanism where they're all like rod and like bolt and socket style. And they're like a spring-loaded cup that you pull it out and it goes over the ball to hold it in there. Real easy to hook up and unhook. All right, the moment we've been waiting for. Fuel system is done. Turn the fuel on, see if we get some fuel through there now. Because before, the float was stuck in the closed position. Now the fuel's got somewhere to go. Look at that. Wow. She runs pretty good for, I don't know, 10, 15 years of sitting. I think we need to work on the cooling system a little bit because I don't want to run it too long. I mean, it's already, I can already feel some heat there. I know the upper radiator hose is bad. That's just falling apart. I don't know if the radiator is bad or not, but if you remember, we still need to evict the mouse house out of the top of the radiator. And I don't have a radiator cap, which shouldn't be a problem. But let's get that mouse house out of there and put some water in it and see if the radiator is full of holes or not. I'm not sure how exactly we're going to get that out of there, but we're going to try the obvious method here. It's kind of ridiculous. The question is, where did the radiator cap go? I don't remember this ever not having one. Jeez. I'm going to keep working at this. I'll be back when we're cleaned up. This is insane. I think this is most of it. It's hard to get you in there, but there's still more stuff in there. So I'm going to have to figure out a way to put a smaller hose in the vacuum and suck that out of there. But this is wild. well, you guys can see, but that little contraption got us pretty good. I mean, there's still junk in there. Don't know what we're going to be able to do about that, but maybe when we fill it with water, it'll float to the top. Worst case, we'll buy a new radiator, but I just priced it out. A new radiator is about $200, so maybe we can find a used one somewhere. Well, we need an upper radiator hose, but before we go too much further, let's get some water in this. See if the radiator's pooched or not. Well, that's a good sign. I think we're good for any major leaks out of the radiator. Well, we got some water in there, so let's fire it up again. So we got this puddle down here, and that's not really a good spot for water to be coming out of. Might have to check into that. I think this block might be cracked. So it appears it's a freeze out plug. It looks like it's rotted out. It's full of junk. Rotted out freeze plug. Oh, yep, there it goes. Just add it to the list of stuff we need. Might as well get an oil filter while we're there, change the oil on it, and work on the intake. So I was just poking around a little more, and I broke the dam of all the goop because she started running out of there like none other. But I guess that's a good thing. And it looks to be that this spot where this freeze plug sits is in okay shape, so we should be able to just pound a new one in there. Cool. Well, while we're waiting for the expansion plug, yes, we can remove the seat. Okay. Well, that part was easy. This part, however, it's not going to be as easy. So we're going to temporarily put this seat on here. I don't want to permanently mount it. This is off a Massey Ferguson 35 that I used to own. And actually, one of my first videos on this channel, if you go all the way back, was putting a turbocharger on a Massey Ferguson 35. It was from that tractor. So I want to use this on that Massey 65 that I still have. I want to get new padding and everything for that, because this is actually a really nice seat. But for the time being, I'm going to put it on here because have you checked out the prices of a just plain old tractor pan seat? They're like 70 bucks. And that's kind of ridiculous for a piece of stamped steel. So until I can find something better, we're going to put this on there because the other Massey, I don't need it right now. And it should be pretty simple. And just throw one bolt in it and we'll be good to go. So I actually might do this a little bit different. Maybe we should sit in that. That looks pretty far forward. I guess it's not terrible. The old seat's a little sad. Much better. So we got the tractor in a different spot here. I I made a temporary plug to cap that. It's actually called a Welsh port. And it's basically where they cast a block from, and it's just a leftover hole. But it works as a freeze port too. So anyway, I made a temporary plug to plug that up. We got the radiator hose installed. So now I filled the cooling system up with water. We still need a radiator cap. And I'm waiting on the actual plug. I'll have it tomorrow. I was able to get it from Napa, so, but they had to order it. So right now, I put it over the drain because when I drained it over here, or when I was flushing out the cooling system, the water doesn't quite make it to the floor drain over there. It kind of just lingers. Over here, it's over the drain, so that'll work better. But we could probably run this plug to try run the tractor. I don't see a reason why. I mean, we couldn't throw the starter back in and give her a go. So far, it's not leaking coolant from anywhere except for around the plug. And the plug's nothing more than a wooden dowel with some tape around it. So, to be expected, you know. All right. Turn our fuel on. Get up on this beast. Okay. Now she's running good. You know, believe it or not, that little plug doesn't seem to be leaking anymore. I was gonna mess with the carburetor, but it's not running that bad right now. This brake kind of hangs up a little bit, so that's not that bad. I think once we get like that plug back in the block and get a radiator cap for it, we'll take it out and take it for a rip. Check it out. Got a freeze out plug. Let's get this installed. You know, I'm not going to say it was the right fix, but that worked pretty well for a broom handle wrapped in electrical tape. But I'm pretty sure the whole engine is still full of water. So let's get that removed and get the right thing in its place. Oh boy. Oh, this might be a problem. Oh, let's try a little bit bigger of a screw. Okay. There we go. Oh. That's some nasty stuff. It's the right size. Yep, that'll work. Alright, we'll let that drain out a little bit. And then I want to put some RTV around this and slam her back in there. Alright, we got it all cleaned up there. Let's get this installed here. Alright, well there it is. We got her jammed in there. Let's add some coolant to this and hope it don't leak. We'll put some water in there first. Alright, that's 2 gallons in there. And our plug over here is dry. So that's a good sign. Grab the radiator cap for now. Put that on. That should work, yep. The starters in these Ford tractors are kind of wild. Got like a ratcheting Bendix thing. Yeah. They kind of suck to put in too. It's weird how they use the starter case bolts to also hold the starter into the motor. You know, I will say though, everything on these tractors is very easy to work with. Like nothing is hard to take apart. I think that was part of the reason they were so popular, because anybody could work on them. And they weren't a complicated thing to, you know, nowadays, you can't hardly work on anything nowadays, but this, even if I wasn't mechanically inclined, I'd have no problems figuring this out. So I've been running off this marine battery, but this is my battery for my plow truck. I've got this side post car battery that will fit in here, but we got the wrong terminals and I can't find my set of adapters. So I'm going to show you a trick I learned off YouTube actually. So you take a piece of copper pipe, smash one end flat, drill the desired size hole. Wow, this drill bit's really dull. And then you just cut it off. And here you have a battery, well, any sort of ring terminal that costs you next to nothing. Now, take your fittings, grab your torch, oh, and cut your old fittings off. So now you got nice bare wire. Make sure that's all good there. I got a nice perfect soldered connection in there. Just like that, we have 2 good connections. So I believe this machine is actually positive ground, so that's how we're going to hook it up. Just about tight there. Okay. That'll do. Okay, so we're gonna take this thing for a little ride. And hopefully it doesn't break. Well, off to a great start here. Alright, let's try this again. We have some governor issues going on here. So let's see. Brake curve. Well, I'm not so sure what's wrong with it. It won't restart now. It died, and it's getting dark, and I'm hungry. It's dinner time. We'll get back with this when we can see what we're doing.
Okay, well, sorry guys, I lost the audio for some reason. I don't know if it's a microphone issue or what, but so the reason it stopped running is the points system. You can see the tan piece there actually stopped contacting the cam piece correctly. And you can see here, I tested it, hooked up a ground and a power and spin the distributor manually, and you can see the little spark. So sorry about the audio, but this explains what we were doing here.
Okay, it seems like every time I touch this thing, something else breaks. So, as you can see, it's torn down. Clean the radiator up, and I don't know if you can see this or not, but the tank is separated from the core. Seems to be okay over here yet, but it was leaking here. So I heated this up, cleaned this up. We're going to try and resolder this. Hopefully it fixes it. I don't know, maybe I'm wasting my time. I should probably just spend $160 on a radiator, but the only reason I'm really fixing this up is because, well, I don't have much invested into it. Well, now I do, but I got it for free. Figured, hey, if I can put a couple bucks into it and make a usable tractor, you know, but I don't have an actual use for this machine because it's very limited. But all right, let's see if we can solder this up. The other thing we're working on, I got parts for the intake, which goes from the carburetor to the air cleaner, which is an oil bath. And I got an oil filter and oil to change the oil in this, but gotta kind of wait till we can get it to stop leaking coolant. Get some flux in there. Oh boy. I'm going to take that as a sign that no, we did not get it. However, it's okay. You don't normally always get it on the first try. But now we know where to look. Alright, this thing's got to come off regardless whether we're replacing it or repairing it, so get it drained out. So on further investigation, I think I'm just going to replace this radiator. It's been repaired here before, it's been repaired here before. It's pretty nasty looking. Plus, if you remember, all the mouse house that was inside of it. The top neck's a little bent. Hate to do it because, you know, if the 1940s or 50s radiator is probably a lot better quality than you can get today, but man, I don't know. Oh, that's the other thing. Little drain valve is not functioning anymore. So, we'll be back with you when we get a new radiator. Alright, well, we got a pile of shiny new parts for this thing. It's been about a week or so since I worked on this, but here's what we got. I couldn't repair the old radiator. I tried a couple times and I just kept finding more issues. So we bought this aluminum radiator. It was like 160 bucks. I got it off Amazon. I'm gonna put all the links to all the parts I bought for this tractor in the description, hopefully. So they said it didn't come with a radiator cap. It did. This was on it. But I bought the factory style cap because I was unaware that this one came with a radiator cap. We got an intake pipe. I didn't want a chrome one, but I couldn't find just a bare steel one. And this was like 30 bucks. Came with our boots too for the intake. We got oil filter, a Wix 51010, and radiator hoses. I only needed the lower one because I already replaced the upper one, but I could only find them as a set. So now I have an extra piece of radiator hose for the top. This is the factory oil bath air cleaner. I took that off and kind of cleaned that up some. I gotta clean the oil bowl out yet. Not a big deal. But yeah, so let's get this new radiator mounted, get it filled up with fluid, and let's run it for a little bit and make sure there's no other issues, and we'll go from there. So I think the obvious thing to do first would be hook the radiator hoses up and get the radiator sitting in a spot where it feels comfortable. Well, you know what I mean, like in a spot where it sits nicely. I don't believe the old fan shroud is going to fit on this radiator. That is one downside. This is more of a universal radiator. I think I was reading you can use it in a lot of like older Ford pickups too, like real old ones. I'm not sure on that, don't quote me. That was just in the reviews section of this product. So anyway, like I said, I don't think we're going to be able to fit the old fan shroud, which is kind of a shame. So this would probably work on here. However, you have to remove these tabs for the overflow tube. I mean, the holes would even probably line up too. However, there's another issue. I'm not sure I want to put a steel shroud on an aluminum radiator because aluminum and steel don't really work together that well. They don't play nice. So I actually think I have a friend that needs a factory radiator shroud or fan shroud for his 9N. So we're gonna take our screws here, which actually these are, look at these things. They're kind of neat. They got like a split, oh, there we go, won't focus. They got a split end to them. I don't know if they're like old school self-drilling screws or self-tapping. But anyway, save the screws and the shroud, put it on the shelf, and then next time he comes up, we'll give it to him. All right, has some little bits of rubber that I cut slots in to use as spacers for under here. We have some stainless 3/8 hardware. Let's get this thing fastened down. All right, there we have it. I amped this thing up with a 20-volt DeWalt battery. It used to have its own battery on there, ran on about 9 volts maybe. And you always had to have it plugged into the wall because the onboard battery wasn't very powerful. Well, now we got one happy pup with a 20-volt powered ball thrower. It's also not as annoying sounding, so anyway, back to the tractor. So the hose, I believe, is a little too long. I slid it up this way as much as I could. It's got this pretty nasty kink in here, but the expanded part here is probably double the length it needs to be. So I think we're gonna cut it off there and slide it on there. Should remove some of the stress here. It's a little bit better. All right, coolant lines are on. We can fill this radiator up now. And I don't see a reason why it should leak now. Everything's new besides, well, the water pump and the engine. And we already fixed the Welsh plug on the block, and the water pump we know don't leak. 2 new hoses, a new radiator. I think we should be good to go. Why do we have a leak there? Is that a leak? All right, we put a little bit of RTV around there, put the clamp back on. Let's fill it up and see if it leaks. I mean, I don't think this water pump's cracked. It's got this weird, I think that's a casting mark. I'm not sure. But yeah, so let's try that. If that don't work, guess this thing's gonna get another couple bucks out of me. I'm gonna put a water pump on it. All right, I don't know how well you're gonna be able to see this. So we got there's our drip there. And I believe it's the water pump is leaking. Not because it's cracked, but because I think it's worn out. If you remember in the beginning of the video, the water pump was a little tight. I think that's finally coming back to bite us. This thing is going to drive me absolutely insane. I was just going to loosen the bolts and put this all back together because the water pump really isn't that hard to get off with the hood on. But I was loosening the bolts and got one off nice. This one snapped clean off. That one there wasn't too bad. But it's going to take about a week to get another water pump. You know, at this point, it's a good thing this tractor is free because the value in these tractors isn't very high. They aren't a valuable tractor because of a few different reasons. This one especially because the 9Ns, as you can see back there, they don't have any floorboards, so they're not very safe. They're a little bit unconventional to run because you got a steering brake on each side of the tractor as opposed to both your brakes on one foot. The PTOs aren't a live PTO, so you got to run a slip clutch if you're on a brush mower. They aren't a really powerful tractor. You know, there's a bunch of reasons. So, being I got this tractor for free, I mean, right about now, I've probably got close to $500 invested into it. Maybe not quite that much. I mean, if you factor in putting a new battery on it, the distributor, all those parts, I mean, I've got close to $500. The water pump's gonna be another 50, 60 bucks. So you're looking at $500 investment. These tractors restored sell for about $2,000. I bought a Ferguson, which is a much newer version of this, that was all painted up, restored, ran great. I paid $500 for it at auction. Now I got a good deal on that, so we can add a couple $100, but you know, it just comes down to like they're not a really desirable tractor. They're super easy to work on. Parts are really easy to get. But if I paid, say, $1,000, which there's a lot of them listed right now in the marketplace for $500 to $1,000 in non-running condition, you could easily sink another $500 into it, just like this one. I mean, this tractor was running when it was parked. You know, so it's a good project for me to tinker on in the wintertime. If I actually needed to rely on this, I'd be in trouble. So this one shouldn't be too bad. Just gonna heat the block up here. Make sure you got a set of vice grips with real good teeth on it, like this one here. Yeah, there we go. That was easy. Alright, couldn't help myself. Tore this thing apart because I had to figure out what was going on. So we got the impeller here. This bearing is in perfect shape, there's nothing wrong with it. Then we've got this seal that almost looks like it might be like a thermostatic seal maybe. So anyway, this seal, it's got a spring in there, and then it's got like this part gets pressed into the housing. And inside of it, it looks like a rubber boot inside the spring. This part separates. I'm not so sure there's anything wrong with the seal itself. I'm thinking around this lip, it may have been leaking. This is just the fan drive pulley. There's nothing going on here. But if you look inside here, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it very well or not, but you can see this second area here where there's a lot of pitting and rust. That was all full of rust pieces. So I cleaned that out. I cleaned up this surface here where the seal rides. I'm thinking maybe we'll put a little bit of RTV around the outside of that. I mean, the water pump's easy enough to take off. I think I'm going to try and fix it. And if it don't work, well, no big loss. But we're going to try it. Well, our rebuild didn't work. Guess we need a water pump. This is like the never-ending project. About a week later, nice new shiny water pump. Let's get her installed. There it is, fan attached, water pump bolted on, no leaks still. So I think we're good to put this hood back on. I'm gonna take a little bit of time here quick and just make sure everything under here is routed nicely. Maybe tie some of these up, because when the hood's on, you can't access this hardly at all. But at least this way you can kind of see what's going on up here and make sure it's all good. This ain't gonna be fun. So you guys just sit back and watch. Okay, so we got that on. Don't like that issue there. Not sure there's a whole lot we can do about that because we're running pretty close tolerances there on the fan to the radiator. Maybe what we'll do is we'll just we can adjust the radiator a little bit. Maybe we'll put a piece of rubber in there. I guess we could kind of cut that out. I really hate to cut the hood up though. Alright, well the camera cut off there, but hood's back on. Got the fuel line hooked up, turned our fuel on. I think we're ready to see if this thing's gonna fire up. I don't know if it's going to. I hope it does. I'm tired of working on it. There's a good chance there's something not quite right with the carburetor because I haven't really done anything with that. I just kind of bolted it on. So who knows? Maybe the float's stuck. I'm not sure. Anyway, let's work on getting this air bath in, or the oil bath intake cleaner on. Oil bath air cleaner. There we go. So this is pretty gross, but put this down here. Actually still had oil in it. So give this a good cleanup. Put some fresh oil in there. Wipe that out. We're in good shape. Much better. Alright, we're gonna put some oil in this oil bath filter. It says right in here, you probably can't read it, but it says fill to top of center peak, meaning to the top of this little protrusion there. All right, there it is. Now this thing gets to be a hot rod. We got this nice chrome intake pipe. Not really because I wanted a chrome one, but because it was the only one I could find, and this one was missing one. Well, that was awful. That was ridiculous to try and put that pipe on there. Oh boy. Okay. I don't know if that broke loose. Oh geez. Wow. Okay. Some black oil there. one nice thing is all you really need is a crescent wrench to service this machine. Here's our oil filter housing. Go. This has a drain on it. Let's drain that out. Oh, there we go. Oh no. Come on. Well, you can tell this thing hasn't been serviced since somebody put this fuel shutoff on. Let's see if we can adjust this. Okay. Wow. The only difference between this filter is this one's got round holes, that one's got little slots. Got that down in there. There's some goo coming out of the bottom of that drain. You know what? I think we're gonna pull this filter back out and maybe try and flush that out. Alright. Squirt some diesel fuel down in there and brake parts cleaner, and it seemed to clean it up some. So, all right, new filters in. Put our plug back in, and it came with a new gasket for the lid, so we'll put that on as well. So here's our new gasket. Fits up there. Let's get the old one out. She's been in there for a little while. Alright, that'll do. Put some Rotella 1030 in there. Thing's not going to know how to act with new oil in it. I think this takes like 2 gallons, 1.6 gallons or something like that. I don't know how well that shows up on camera, but there's quite a bit of writing on this dipstick. You got full, safe operating range, and danger. There we are, about center of the safe operating range. Throw a touch more in there. That'll count for the filter. Let that funnel clean out. We'll be in good shape to fire it up and take it outdoors. So I'm going to quit while we're ahead here. This thing runs pretty good right now. It's not 100%, but we pulled it out of the weeds and she's running good now and doesn't overheat. I think eventually that cheap carburetor is going to come back to bite us. I think that's some of what our issue is, but I don't know. She's running good now. It's not overheating. All the gears work. The 3-point works. It's got the typical blown seal issue where it'll drift down and you push clutch in. PTO does work. Brakes work. Clutch is good. I'm gonna call this a win. So let me know if you guys want to see more of this stuff. I mean, I've got a bunch of these different old pieces of equipment, and I get a lot of satisfaction out of repairing this equipment. So if you guys like watching it, I'll fix it. So thank you so much for watching, and we will catch you on the next one. Oh, there she is. Made it to the barn.